Good evening. Just into the newsroom, the U.S. Treasury Department has announced it's lifted global sanctions on purchases of Russian oil that is currently at sea until April 11th. That's according to the New York Times.
Yeah, John, the Trump administration says this relief is needed after energy prices spiked this week as the conflict in the Middle East escalates. But for Ukrainians here in Alaska, it's just the latest change abroad that makes them uncertain of their future.
February 24th marked 4 years since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. For hundreds of Ukrainians who fled to Alaska because of that war, the tedious conflict is wearing. Zoria Panasevich runs New Chance, a program in Anchorage supporting them.
What was the 4-year mark like for the community?
It seems like a bottomless pit of pain, of loss. Lots of death, lots of destruction. I reached out to a lot of community members who I know are active, and I asked about coming together and hosting an event, and no one wanted to do it. Everyone said, Zori, let's come together when there's something to celebrate.
Recent news of President Trump's temporary lift on Russian oil sanctions means some relief for a panicking global energy market after the Iranian conflict halted shipments of fuel through the contested Strait of Hormuz. But the move drew concern from Ukrainians, now in their 5th year of weathering Russian attacks.
The war, the aggression, has always been fueled by Russia's sales of their oil. And we have lived through 4 horrific years when there were sanctions in place. We know that Kremlin would win from the lift of sanctions.
About 1,000 Ukrainians remain in Alaska with uncertain temporary humanitarian parole status.
There's no pathway for Ukrainians to just apply for citizenship. I've read comments online of other articles where people are like, well, just have them apply. Why don't they just apply? There's nothing that they can apply for.
Governor Mike Dunleavy asked the White House for a more permanent path for them to stay. He sent this letter to President Trump in January, asking his administration to consider options to allow Alaska's Ukrainians to continue working and living in the state. As of Thursday, the governor's office says they have not received a response. Augusta McDonald, Alaska's news source.
Well, Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum was in Anchorage today before making a trip to Japan to promote the LNG pipeline development in Alaska. He was joined by Governor Mike Dunleavy at Ted Stevens International Airport. The group highlighted the commitment made by President Donald Trump to develop Alaska's resources and unleash the potential possibilities. Here's some of what Burgum had to say.
Developing Alaska's resources to be able to support our territories, our states, and our allies as a way to bring prosperity to all of our citizens, but bring peace to the world, which benefits everybody.
As for the governor, he says lawmakers can expect an anticipated bill proposing a property tax for the gas line as early as next week.
And a new jury is in place for the retrial stemming from a Mount Ballyhoo crash that killed 2 Unalaska teens. 24-year-old Dustin Ruckman is back in court facing 2 counts of criminally negligent homicide in the 2019 deaths of Carly McDonald and Kiera Rentiera Haste.
Well, Johnson Kuhn in studio now with what happened in court today. Hi, Johnson.
Was present in court today as jury selection concluded. Prosecutors allege Ruckman was behind the wheel when a pickup left the roadway on Mount Ballyhoo and fell an estimated 900 feet down a cliff. Investigators say Ruckman reported being ejected as the vehicle went down, while the 2 teens were still inside and died. Defense attorneys have argued the case may involve civil liability, but does not meet the threshold for criminal negligence under Alaska law. The original 2020 indictment included more serious counts, but prosecutors later narrowed the case to the 2 criminally negligent homicide charges now being retried. Last year's trial ended in a mistrial after the jury couldn't reach a unanimous verdict. Carly McDonald's mother, Alyssa, saying earlier this week she's confident the girl's story will be fully heard in court.
And I also feel that we have an attorney who is going to represent the girls in a way that is going to do justice to the true story, and hopefully responsibilities will be taken.
And opening statements are expected Friday morning. We'll continue to track the progress of this case and bring you updates as we receive them. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
Johnson, thank you. Well, tonight we are talking with Jewish community leaders here in Anchorage about today's Michigan synagogue attack, described by the FBI as a targeted act of violence.
Investigators say the suspect rammed a vehicle into the building, which caused it to catch fire. Security shot the suspect, and he was later found dead. At least one security guard was hurt. The vehicle was registered to a man who was originally from Lebanon. The area was recently the target of an Israeli airstrike. Lebanon was recently the target of an Israeli airstrike. But local rabbi Yosef Greenberg says things like this are the exact reason they always have security at their buildings.
I feel that our environment is very safe, and I feel that the best thing we can do is come together. And I also feel like the worst thing we can do is be too scared to come together, right? That's the folks who don't like us. That's them winning. If that's how we react to this.
Investigators say explosives were also found in the back of the suspect's vehicle. They're still trying to find out an exact motive. Congressman Nick Begich discussed the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and several other topics while addressing the Alaska legislature this week. Our political reporter Will Courtney informs us in today's Political Pipeline podcast that is available to listen to right now on our free streaming apps. And we've got those on Apple TV, Amazon, and Roku.
And we are looking at cold conditions across the state. I want to show you the temperatures across the interior, which have been extreme. We have now seen 30 days at 40 below this winter in the interior. That has only happened 3 other times where we've seen more than 30. We saw 37 days back in 1964 and 65. In the 30s, it was 35 days. In the 40s, 34 days. So you can see it has been a long time since we've seen this many days in a winter at 40 below. Also, just looking at the last 2 weeks, this is now the coldest on record with an average temperature of 20 below. We are seeing temperatures at 0 right now in Fairbanks, 12 in Anchorage, 13 in Palmer, and just 19 in Juneau. We all have the cold in common. We also all have the blue sky and sunshine in common, and that is going to hold. We are still seeing some more extreme wind chill values. That includes in Fairbanks up toward Dead Horse down the west coast and in places like Seward and Palmer where those winds have been a little bit stronger. And we do still have a winter weather advisory. And in fact, near Ketchikan, that's one spot still seeing those snow showers tonight. Now, I do expect chances for some light snow in many places as we head into the weekend, but not tonight or tomorrow. Tonight is back down to about 5 below in Anchorage with high temperatures getting back into the mid-teens tomorrow.
Now let's get to the Iditarod, where Jesse Holmes and his team were the first team to cripple, which is the official halfway point of the race.
All right. In doing so, he won the GCI Dorothy G. Page Halfway Award. And with that comes $3,000 in gold nuggets, also a smartphone of his choosing, with free mobile service for a year.
All right, good stuff. And we're also following a story from the trail involving a competitor who was charged by a bison. This is video that musher Jody Potts Joseph recorded moments after the animal left. She says she hid behind a tree for safety. It was actually her remembering her grandmother's voice in her head that she says helped her.
And I always remember that story and my grandma and, you know, our people, like elders always say, like, that animals understand our native language. And so that was my last resort. So I just said, Antlachincha, Chichine, Huchina. And that bison, like, popped its head up and then just turned around and trotted on down the trail.
Here's another incredible story from the Iditarod Trail. She says after the bison left, she waited a little bit for it to get downhill, and then she took off to her next checkpoint. We're going to hear more from Jody tonight on the Late Edition.
The mushers and dogs of the Iditarod need lots of food to keep their journey going, and each checkpoint along the way has eager volunteers ready to help.
Yeah, but who keeps those volunteers fed, right? Charlie Fellows. He's going to introduce us to the man who represents the true behind-the-scenes heroes who are keeping that race going.
The Iditarod takes a village, literally. Every town the race stops in needs all hands on deck to care for not just the mushers and dogs, but all the volunteers that keep the race going behind the scenes. But if the village is focused on the race, who is focused on the village? The answer is Tony.
I'm an Iditarod cook. They call me the chef because I make a bunch of different stuff, but I'm not formally schooled.
Each winter since 2017, Tony Bove puts his life as a glass worker in Oregon on pause to fly to McGrath, one of many checkpoints along the trail. His job?
A little more nutrients, some 10 grain.
To keep the volunteers helping the mushers and anyone else at the Anoco Lodge fed.
You know, I've cooked a lot in restaurants and lodges and had many events, but this is one of the biggest animals I've ever handled. You're managing the food, the fridge, the freezers, properly putting things away. A lot of people moving, a lot of moving parts.
Which comes with its own share of unique challenges.
First off, Alaska sometimes just doesn't have some ingredients. I like to bring all my own fresh ginger root. You know, it's great for Asian meals, teriyaki sauce, rice, you name it. And sometimes the state of Alaska, you know, doesn't have any. They're sold out.
Still, Tony manages, sometimes needing to work 17-hour days to make sure the food gets made.
That feels good, because I know I'm working hard and they're working hard doing what they're supposed to do, you know. So I want to make sure they go to bed happy and full.
Tony isn't just one man. He's one of dozens, even hundreds of workers who toil away at each stop on the trail, out of view of the dogs, mushers, and fans.
Not a whole lot, just enough to give it some character, some strength when you cut it.
Without whom there would be no Iditarod to enjoy. Charlie Fellows, Alaska's news source.
Great stuff, Charlie. Here's a live look at the GPS tracking right now as more racers look to get through that halfway point. You can bet that there will be some more shakeups, so we're keeping an eye.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's news source app.